Hi, this is Kevin from Silver Hill, and thanks for watching. In this video, we're going to talk about that issue that comes up with aging parents is when do you tell them it's time to clean house? And because if you've been like me, the thing that's going to happen is if they have their own home, large or small, when it comes time to move, it's going to be a huge workload for you. And it's going to be almost unbearable and cause tons of family stress. So here's what you need to do. Well, first off, what reminded me of this was that I was talking to someone I hadn't talked to in a long time. She works at a grocery store, and she actually was her parents were neighbors to my dad and my mom. My dad has passed away 4 years ago, and my mom's in a home now with dementia. And well, my parents lived in a house for 40 years that my dad and I built. There's other videos on that. And we had to sell that house after he died, and they had really very little paperwork and wills and stuff like that. Very little arrangements made for what would happen when this day came. And so I was in the store, and I ran into this woman who, I knew she worked there over the years. I just hadn't spoke to her, probably not that much since like the big days of COVID and everything, which is kind of relevant to this story because she said her dad had got COVID. See, what I did is I told her right up front, I said, we finally sold the house. I said, it took me 4 years, and I explained to her, as I have in other videos, what took so long to sell a house. So my dad and I built this house, and this woman that I was speaking to, her parents were neighbors to my parents. And it was very kind of a wooded area, so it's not like we could look out and see their house because there was a lot of like trees in between my parents' house, which I'll just call our house. If I say it, it means my mom and dad's house, and this and the neighbor. And yeah, when we were kids, I do remember this girl coming over and visiting on our property, and as we were building the house and that sort of thing, and anyways, she's a full-grown woman now, and I was talking to her, and I was saying it took me 4 years to get that house ready. And she said, wow, 4 years. And I said, so I asked her about her parents and that sort of thing, and she said her dad isn't doing very well, unfortunately, and apparently he got COVID, and it really took him for the worst, and I think what he's dealing with is long COVID, but she has other opinions, but we're not getting into that here. And I know there's people going to comment and post about that, but this is about basically getting your parents' home kind of ready as they get older. Now, my dad, he had his final stroke when he died. He was 87 years old. He had a perfectly good life up to that point. I mean, other than a few heart attacks, but his life was always good. He always had good jobs, made pretty good money, and he took care of us and that sort of thing. Good father. But he lived to be 87, and it kind of fooled everybody because he was so healthy. He was so healthy that it's like everybody kind of thought he was going to go on forever. Like I remember after he passed away, people were saying things like, I'm shocked. He was so, vibrant and involved in things, and he cut firewood, and he wrote poems, and he would go singing and playing mostly guitar playing. He wasn't much of a singer, but he'd go. That wasn't his specialty, and so he would go, and him and Mom and they would play in churches and things like that, and play music. So they both seemed to be very, very alive and full of energy, but he lived to be 87, and so that kind of fooled us, meaning my family and my brother in some ways. Although my brother said that when he would visit from over in the States, because he'd come over once a year, as I may have mentioned, he would always tell my dad when he looked around. My dad had a small engine repair business, and it kept his mind going, and he was sharp to the end, and but he was kind of like collecting, should I say, a lot of broken shite. Yes, a lot of parts and pieces and garbage and junk and tires, and we're not even going to get into that. There's another video, maybe I'll put a link to it here. You can watch about it where I describe the mess that we were left. So we had a house full, a story and a half, full basement house with a lifetime of things that Dad had collected that just people use. I mean, you have your basic things like toaster ovens and everything from Q-tips to cutlery to, you know, the whole thing, right? And so you have that, and that's a lot of work. So I was telling this woman that I met, you know, she said, Mom is all for kind of cutting back and kind of cleaning up the house, but my dad doesn't want to let anything go. And I know this is a problem a lot of people face with aging parents. How do you convince them? Well, let's get to that in a minute. But anyways, so she's dealing with that, and she lives close to me. Like, I don't know where she lives, this one I'm talking about. So she's got the same issue as us, is that she's pretty much 5-hour round trip to go down to her parents and to just look after them, you know. She said her father's not even capable of shoveling out the driveway anymore. So, yeah, maybe I lost track of my thinking here. But I wanted to get back to, all the mess that Dad had and the things that are done that I'm kind of thinking that, geez, I was on a trail there and I was going to tell you something and I forgot what it was. I can't remember. But anyways, I did find that we didn't get a chance, see, because of Dad being so healthy, and there was COVID restrictions at one point where we weren't even allowed in the territory. There was a major wildfire that took place the summer after that, and it was one thing after another. And the last few years, my main contact with my folks was mostly over the phone. Different the last 2 or 3 years. And not that I didn't see them at all, but, you know. So, my brother would come over and he'd say to my dad, he'd come over and visit for a week from the States, and he'd say, Dad, you got to clean this mess up. So, oh man, I'm telling you, when the day came and everything settled, Mom was in a place, and we had to go in that house and on that property, there was a 58 backhoe that had to be removed. I mean, just a lot of stuff. I mean, and I ended up, and this is the whole thing, a part of this channel, is that it's about seniors. I'm hitting 62 very soon, and it's quite a thing when seniors end up looking after seniors, isn't it? And it's like, let me tell you, when you're in your late 50s and 60s, you haven't got the same energy you did when you're 30 to go out a place like that, to go out a very dirty house, and, well, no, Mom kept it clean, but I mean, like, full of stuff, packed of papers and things. And so I would really encourage you, if you're in a situation like this, that what you do is you go in and you say to your parents, because you see the day is going to come. I mean, yeah, it could come. I may not make it to 62. It's true. It's possible. And I got a lot of stuff. But I think, generally speaking, if you're in your late 80s and you got a house full of stuff, it's like somebody's. It's like the Egyptian pyramids. You can't take it with you. It's going to end up in the servants, the chariots, the wagons, the horses. All that gold ain't going anywhere. It's just you that's going somewhere. So it is time. It's time at that point to start scaling back, I think. It really is. And my wife and I have been trying it now. We are both in our 60s. And we are trying very hard. We've had 3 kids. And for the most part, they've moved out. And they have a lot of things. We have things that we kept. We didn't have smartphones, really, for when they were little. So we have photos. And we have papers. And I know a few years ago, I went and got narrowed of each 3 kid. I got a banker's box, and I said, okay, I'm going to put artwork from grade when they were 5 years old or whatever we kept in those boxes under their name. But I'm still finding stuff. I ended up bringing a lot of my parents' stuff in order to get the house to sell. I would load up my SUV every trip down, and it was in an area where I couldn't do a yard sale because I was so far away and there was no place to do it. And I didn't want to have to advertise what was in the house of value while I was away for 4 to 5 weeks before I could get back down to work on it. And we couldn't even, as I said in other ones, we couldn't get a bin. There was no local bin that we could dump there. And even if we could, I had no guarantees I could get down. We'd be paying for a bin. And if something happened and I couldn't get down. So we did find a local person to carry, just to jump to the end story. We did find a local person eventually that if we went down, we made a huge pile out in the yard, we could pay them to come and tow that away. And we did that. And through all kinds of things, through personal health issues I had with surgeries, sciatica, torn rotator cuff, all these things that seemed to just hit me at the same time. So as I said in another video, you think you're 35 and you think when your parents have all this stuff and you got to go at their house. I'm going to tell you, life can change in a moment, just like that. And all of a sudden, I was always quite healthy and physically fit sort of thing, and kind of tried to look after my health. And then I ended up with a couple big surgeries. That took me out a whole year. The area had a wildfire that hadn't been that... We almost thought the house was going to burn down at one point because it had been 100 years in that year since that area had a wildfire like that. So we were actually not allowed in the area. It was one thing after another. It's like when Dad passed away, it's like everything came unraveled. It was like he was holding the whole world together. And so there was health reasons, there was all kinds of issues, legal issues we had to go through with just being able to sell the house, get power of attorney. All this stuff was not even looked. My parents went on as if they were going to live forever. So here's my suggestion for you. I'll make it kind of quick and brief. The next time you're visiting mom or dad or whoever your guardian was and they're getting up there, I don't know, you're going to have to be the judge of that. It depends on their health. I mean, in some ways, I know it kind of goes against what I said, but if they're 65, I wouldn't go down there and try to go over to their house and try to throw all their stuff. But it really would help if, for example, if you as the child, like I know I'm not talking I'm talking more to people my age here right now in their 60s, but you know, if the kids that you had would come and get their stuff and take it away, that's going to help the kids when this time comes. If the adults who own this stuff would start going through it and say, I don't read that book anymore. I'm not into those, whatever it is, that series of books. I don't need those DVDs. I don't need that 1958 tractor that's cost a lot to tow away. Fortunately, we had a friend who lived, basically it was a 10-hour trip away, a round trip, 5 hours, who was eventually we were able, after about 3 years, to have this friend come, and I basically, for a low price, sold it to him so he could come and take some of the other equipment and stuff Dad had off the property. But it took 4 years, 4 years to get to the point, and then once we even got the house empty and the land clean, we had to deal with things like getting the septic tank pumped and having the well checked and that stuff that's just normal. And that's work enough, isn't it? So my advice to you is to go down. I know I'm kind of coming back circles around and around, but my advice is to see your parents and ask, can I have that table? Do you really need this? Maybe we could put these photos on, I'll take pictures of them and we'll put them on file. I know, it's like, I try to tell myself, this is another mindset I try to say, even cleaning out my own stuff. Eventually, nobody's going to care about this stuff. It's only you and your memories. And heck, you know, there's dementia in my family, Parkinson's in my family. There's going to come a point, if I don't just die, there's probably going to be a point where I don't even recognize who's in the photos. Which is like my mom. She didn't know what the keys to the house went. She was left and Dad was sharp. Mom didn't know anything. She didn't know anything. She didn't even remember the house itself. No, I'm not kidding. She lived in that house for 40 years, and she did not, and it had some uniqueness to it. My dad and I built it with a cathedral ceiling. We had, I think there were 2x8 beams. They were rough cut, and I had stained them charcoal, and we had pine inside. You could see Gruventine pine from the inside. So it wasn't like it was just it had some uniqueness to the house. Huge living room and dining room area, and she could remember us living in a mobile home before that, but for 40 years she lived in a house. And when she got dementia, it was almost to the day that he died, she just snapped. I mean, she was showing small bits and she just snapped, and she had no recollection of the house. I think it was partly a shock that when he died and they came and took him basically out of the house, because he had his stroke overnight. I won't go into more details like that, so the ambulance had to come, and Mom, once she got out of the house, no recollection. So I couldn't ask her. Whose is this? What's that? What's the significance of this dresser that looks like it's vintage? All kinds of examples, from the at least the mid-30s, if not earlier than that. And I don't know if it was some heirloom passed down. I don't know. Nobody knows. So all the stuff that you're keeping, that they're keeping, once 100 years goes by, or 200 or less than that, no one's going to care, and no one's going to remember. So try to get them to start cleaning out things. Kindly suggesting that you would like to have that certain item or whatever, and then you could get it to your house and deal with it. I know I'm not saying you should lie, but you should lie, because trust me, you don't know what you're going to face when it all hits the fan. And in my case, one had a stroke, was in the hospital, and then died. The other one had dementia full blown almost at the moment. And we were left with a crap ton of work to do. So the more you can get done now, the easier it's going to be, because trust me, life will throw everything at you. It just seems the way it is. Once something comes your way that you got to deal with, well, life seems to do the same thing. Okay, that's it. That's my advice for now. And if you're going through this, my all the best to you. If you are going through it and you weren't prepared, chunk it down, I guess is the best way to do it. Just chop it up into little pieces, attack those things, and just do it bit by bit by bit till it's finally done. You may have different circumstances. You may be able to hire somebody. You may be able to even hire a bin where you can just toss everything. That would help. Anyways, it's me from Kevin. Thanks for watching. I hope this video has been some help to you. See you in the next one.